going on, big ballers? It's your boys, the Fantasy Football Sports Minds. It's Manny James Games and your boy Joe, the Birdman, over here, coming at you with a new episode, Fantasy Football Sports Minds, episode 11. Thank you so much for joining us here again. Joe, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well. It was a rough week for fantasy, but I got to say that the two leagues I'm doing the best. I'm continuing to do well. But, I'm just getting kicked in the teeth in my other leagues, and it hurts. I'm barely hanging on in a couple, and I'm completely out of it in a couple. So, 6 leagues. I'm in the middle for 2 of them. I'm at the top for 2 of them, and I'm dead last in a couple of them. So I'm all over the place, and it's weird, man. Some of the same teams, like not same, but very similar teams. It's matchup dependent, and a lot of it has not worked out in my favor. But it's a new week. I'm still going forward. I'm still trying to do whatever I can to hang on. But fantasy wise, it was a rough week for me. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I can relate. I have one league where I'm fighting. I just went one game. That was week number 9, so I just went one game behind 500, and I'm like the 8th spot now in a 7-man playoff. So, I got to fight for it. I got some favorable news. Obviously some injured players coming back here, so I know that's something working out for you. I saw different players we're going to talk about here in a minute, but I have one league where I'm obviously 8-1 in, or 2 leagues I'm 8-1 in. And a lot of that, obviously, the leagues that you could be doing bad in. When you do so many leagues, it has to do with draft position, right? And when you got a lot of competitive leagues, there's guys that know what they're doing. Unfortunately, certain players might not fall to you. So it's all about, obviously, people adapting. And sometimes the ball doesn't roll your way. And that's just how it is sometimes. So
Right.
it's all about wheeling and dealing, trying to do what you can. And I know Joe tried to stay alive in some of those leagues, and unfortunately, it doesn't work out that way sometimes. But the end of the day, it's about fighting to the end. So you did an admirable job trying to do so, and it doesn't work out that way sometimes. But get into some injuries. Speaking of injuries, we had some new injuries this week. Dallas Goedert from Eagles on IR. He's going to be out for at least 4 to 6 weeks, right? IR is 4 weeks, but you never know. A fractured forearm could cause bigger delays because, that impedes his ability to catch the ball. I
Of
mean,
course.
he could be come back and then just not be productive. Joshua Palmer's on IR as well. He's going to be out for 4 weeks. So now another Chargers receiver down, So that's going to affect his stock. Quentin Johnson – stock should have been up, but I mean, Jalen Guyton was the guy that was getting some of those looks. So who knows what's happening in San Diego or LA, whatever they are, the Chargers now. Cam Akers towards his ACL, he's out for the season. So Madison goes back to being RB7. So if you have him here, he just got a slight bump up. So congratulations to you, Madison owners. Now you get your 12 points a game back. Congratulations. Daniel Jones is out for the season. Not surprising because he hasn't been producing anyways. Feel sorry for the guy, towards ACL. That's always sucks for any player that gets injured, but I don't feel sorry for a Giants franchise that invested so much money in a quarterback because that franchise just went back another 5 years. As an Eagles
They
fan,
really
I'm happy
have.
for them, so that sucks for them. Christian Watson, another hamstring injury. That guy's going to be out for another 4 to 6 weeks. Hamstrings have been, beating up Green Bay. Do they play on turf or do they play on grass over there? Because it seems like there's a lot of hamstring injuries over there in Green Bay.
I actually don't know. I thought it was grass, but maybe it is turf. Yeah, they've had a handful of injuries, and yeah, Christian Watson, man, he never even came back. He never seemed 100%, and he hasn't performed all year. I know he was injured, but he hasn't performed all year, and now he's out again. So, hey, but Aaron Jones seems to be back. So, Aaron Jones,
Finally.
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty high on him the rest of the year, though. He should continue to play well. And,
Yeah.
Saquon's the only piece of the Giants offense that you want anymore. Both those teams are hurting and very limited as far as your options for fantasy players.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So it's good to have Aaron Jones back. Also, Justin Jefferson. Speaking of activation, Justin Jefferson's been designated to come back from injury, so that should be a big boost. I know one of your teams has been waiting for him. Devin Achan is coming back from injury. Doesn't He's going to actually play? He's already been confirmed to come back from and play for Miami. I know. All those Raheem Mostert thought he was going to be the guy, but as soon as HM played, we all realized that he's a future. So after once HM plays, he's going to be the guy. We all
Yeah,
know
once
that.
he's back, he's the guy. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, and then obviously James Conner, you're getting him back. He's going to definitely. I don't know. He's been limited today, so he has 2 more days to practice Thursday, Friday before they designate him to play, and I'm sure he's going to be on a snap count when he comes out and plays. Same thing with Kyler Murray. He's going to come out and play. I don't think they're going to run him too hard. But what other option do they have? I mean, they started. Was it Jaron Hall or is Jaron Hall for the Vikings? I don't know. Like whatever quarterback they
They're
start.
like, yeah, there were 3 rookies in there that I'd never heard of, so it was tough for me to keep track of them.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of who's throwing the ball over there. So definitely, Kyler Murray should be back there. Am I missing any other activations here for this week?
No, just um, some interesting changes as a result of injuries. Kirk Cousins went down, and Josh Dobbs was signed to the Minnesota Vikings and looked great. He's had 6 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. He's a good football player. He's been around a little while, but I think he's actually a really good fit on the Vikings. So if you need a quarterback, I think he's worth a pickup. I mean, we'll see. I could be dead wrong, but the last couple of weeks he's looked great, and I think Minnesota is a better team for him to put up big numbers. Maybe for them to make a move like that, they're clearly thinking about this season. They're not just punting and saying, "All right, we fold, we're done." Kirk Cousins went down. They grabbed Dobbs, and Justin Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson. They might be able to continue producing high numbers if Dobbs continues playing well. So that'll be interesting to see. But I do think he's worth an add if you need a quarterback.
Oh yeah, a way better team in Minnesota and a much better offensive line too. They can actually block there. You could tell in Arizona it's just an absolute crap show. Like they haven't invested enough in that O line. I mean, even Kirk Cousins had a few games he was running for his life against like really good pass rushes, but they're not facing too many of those vaunted pass rushes unless you're facing like teams like the 49ers or the Eagles or like the Browns, teams that are like loaded up like that, or the Ravens, you're pretty, Vikings are going to have good days. And even the Vikings faced the
Yeah.
Niners and they were good, but obviously the new look Niners with Chase Young are going to be a little bit different. But overall, I'd say that, Josh Dobbs is definitely a solid pickup for them and, solid flyer, especially if you're
Yeah.
looking at right now, you're on those bye weeks 9, 10, 11, 12. You're looking at some major bye weeks for some big quarterbacks those weeks. I mean, right
And
now the Eagles are on a bye week. You have the Rams on a
yeah.
bye week.
And
So
there's some good guys on the waiver wire to pick up. You Goff might be available this week. I don't know about Goff as far as you know, putting up a we'll talk about that later. I don't know if Goff's going to have the best day. I think Detroit as a whole is going to have a good day, which will probably mean Goff has a good day. But he's on the waiver wire in a lot of leagues, and
really,
Sam Howell's on the waiver wire in a lot of leagues.
yeah,
So
somehow definitely.
he's another one that you could pick up and plug in with confidence.
Yeah, that's definitely good. I can see Sam Howell. I haven't seen Jared Goff available a lot, but definitely Sam
Yeah,
Howell. He's a good pickup.
Goff isn't available in a lot. I shouldn't have said a lot, but it's definitely possible some people listening he's available in your league, and or you could just throw a low ball trade out there. A lot of times people pick him up, keep him on their bench. I have him on my bench in a couple leagues, and I'm happy I do because he's a really rock solid play in certain matchups.
Oh yeah, definitely. Other than that, everything else is pretty much boneyard right now for waiver wires. Pretty much the bone's been picked dry. If you're at this point in the season, you had your chance to get CJ Stroud about 6 weeks ago, guys like that. You had your DeMarcado train about 2 weeks ago. It had things already sailed by for about 2 to 3 weeks.
That thing
Tutu Atwell
he
6
barely
weeks
got out
ago.
there.
Puka Nacua. I'm feeling like right now, it's been a rough stretch for the Rams. I got Derrick Henry in that trade, but I'm feeling the ramifications of that trade. But overall, it's you just gotta kind of stay alive, try to get those wins, because this is the toughest part of the year to get those wins. So if you're fighting for a playoff spot, it's gonna be a little bit of tough sledding right now for you. But
yeah, one more guy I do want to mention, and I got to bring him up because he's my boy Taysom Hill. Let me just read some stats real quick, because there's a good chance he's available. He's available in 50% of leagues, and I just want to read over the last 4 weeks: 19 targets, 16 catches for 126 yards and a touchdown, 26 rushing attempts, 135 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So
damn.
That's over the last 4 weeks. That's 261 total yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, they're using him as the RB2 in New Orleans, so he's worth the pickup. They're not giving the ball to Jamal Williams. We thought Jamal Williams was going to be that same guy he was in Detroit, but they're using Taysom.
Yeah, you get that rushing production, you get a little passing production. You might squeeze a passing touchdown in there, or you might squeeze a receiving touchdown in there. So I mean, he's the ultimate wild card play
for a tight end. What do you have to lose?
You're getting 10 points a game from that position, anyways. Why not get an extra, touchdown in there?
Yeah, I mean, the top guys are getting you 10 points a game, 10 or 12. So you might as well just roll the dice, see what you can get out of Taysom. He might give you 5, and that's a loss. But there's plenty of tight ends that are just give you 5 or 6 points too. So it's worth the risk, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. And before we get into the first segment, one thing I wanted to add as well, thank you to all the viewers out there that are following us here. We just hit 50 downloads on Buzzsprout for our podcast here. And we just want to thank you guys for following us here at Fantasy Football Sports Minds. It means a lot to us that you folks really follow us and download our videos and our sound, because this is what we do it for. We do it for you guys. We appreciate you following us, because you guys are the ones that know that we've been doing this since day one, that we've been putting this information out there. We're not trying to copy off anybody. As a matter of fact, I just watched a game, and I watch games, and that's it. I don't really listen to many analysts, because I feel like my opinion could get, skewed when I listen to these guys, and half of that stuff is garbage. There's only a few people out there that I really respect, and I respect their opinion. I like their opinion. That, we mentioned them fantasy footballers, guys like that,
And the thing is, I totally agree that your opinion does get skewed when you listen to other people. But on top of that, there's so many of these experts, these quote unquote experts, that just look at what the other experts are saying and agree with them. I mean, it's the exact same thing you see all over the world in every industry. You just nod your head and agree like a good boy. We just watch the football games and make our own analysis based on what we see and based on the player's history. It's, pretty simple stuff when you just break it down to football. And that's what we do. And yeah, man, if you don't want to watch the videos on YouTube, you can listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And, 50 downloads doesn't sound like much, but just getting started and the work we put in, feels great to hear that. So please spread the word, because we've been on point. You can't doubt us. We've been on point.
Oh, yeah. And then hopefully you've gotten some advice. I mean, and if you guys have any questions, we always say, put it on there. Ask us questions. I know we're not always the fastest getting back to you. We apologize. There's just obviously a lot of things going on in our personal lives. And that's
we
not
both got
excuse,
full-time jobs and families. So,
if you guys keep sharing and supporting us, we could get paid to do this, and we could spend more time on the internet, guys. So please support us, like us, share us. Tell your mother about us, all right? Tell your granny. We would love the support, all right?
Yeah, but don't tell your wife, because she'll probably bitch at you for listening to more fancy.
Yeah, and don't tell our wives, because they will probably bitch at us, all right? So don't do that. No, I'm just kidding. Joe doesn't have one. Here, we got rid of her.
Yeah. My baby's mom already knows. She knows I got a podcast, but she doesn't listen to it.
That's good.
That's good because we say bad things about
But
her.
my son encourages me.
No, I'm just kidding. We don't say bad things. We love them. The women that bear our children are loved here, ladies
Very
and
much
gentlemen.
so.
We love them.
It's the only way to be.
Without further ado, Joe, let's get this show on the road.
It's time for the hot matchup of the week. Hot matchups, plural, of the week. And we've got some really good games lined up. And I think you guys are going to agree with everything we got to say. Manny, why don't you kick things off for us? What's your first hot matchup of the week?
Well, I thought about it long and hard, and I looked at it. There's a lot of lopsided matchups this week. I love this week for football because there's going to be some points scored, some high-scoring games on like one side of the spectrum, right? So you're looking at some good ones. So the first one I have here, Texas versus the Bengals, is going to be one of my favorite matchups this week. So Bengals has a solid defense. Texans are actually not that bad as well. They're middle of the road. I think Bengals are higher on the scale though. But both teams with great offenses. I mean, Bengals have been moving the ball. You saw them move the ball against the Bills recently and other teams.
Yeah,
Joe Burrow's finally rolling. You know, they've been feeding the ball a lot. I like Joe Mixon a lot for this game because Texans are not great against the run defense. And of course, CJ Stroud really hit, you know, that stride last game against Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay wasn't that bad against the pass, but they really made them look bad. I mean, like they took that game over, 5 touchdowns, 475 pass yards for CJ Stroud. So definitely going to be a good game. I think Bengals have a much better secondary. They got Mike Hilton back there. They have some really good corners as well. So I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be as he's not going to go off for 5 touchdowns. So I think you would temper your expectations for CJ Stroud. But I do think that there would be like at least 20 to 30 points scored on each side. So you're looking at it probably over the spread. I haven't looked at it. If it's in the high 40s, it should be probably in the low 50s overall. What do you think?
I would assume it's probably in the high 40s. And yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow's back. He's looked awesome the last 2 weeks. Stroud had a little bit of a lull, in like weeks 4, 5, and 6 or something, but definitely hit his stride last week. I mean, he looked good before that too, but he looked incredible. You got Tank Dell and Nico Collins, and Jamar Chase didn't have the best game, but obviously he's going to be a monster in most games. And Higgins, he's looked awesome. He had a slow start, but he's back to 100%. He had over 100 receiving yards. And Mixon, I think, is also going to have a great game. The Houston run game is pretty much non-existent, so you want to stay away from that. But the passing game on both sides of the ball is going to be, it should be a shootout. And I think I think I've got a lot of stock in that game, just trying to go over my lineup. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
Oh, yeah. What about you?
Well, my first hot matchup is the 49ers and the Jaguars. They're both very well rested coming off of bye week. They've got Debo healthy again, and Zay Flowers is probably going to play. I don't know for sure about either one of them, but they're both trending in the right direction. And, other than Trent Williams, the 49ers offensive tackle, out with a bad ankle sprain, I think everyone's healthy. And like I said, coming off that bye week, 2 high-powered offenses. You got the Niners, with CMC, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, Purdy, all ready to go. And then on the other side of the ball, you got Etienne, Christian Kirk, Ridley, and, basically, I don't see any scenario where this can be a low-scoring game because even though their defenses are okay, their offenses are just that much better, So I expect it to be a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Should be high scoring for sure. And So Zay Jones is coming back, you said, for the Jaguars, right? So
Yeah, I said Zay Flowers. I'm sorry. I meant
yeah,
Zay
I
Jones.
got confused for a second. I was like, yeah, he's on the Ravens. But Zay Jones is coming back. I know he had some big games last year, so he could definitely be on there. But Christian Kirk's gonna get his share for sure. The tight end Evan Ingram's gonna be there
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
of course.
Travis Etienne, he's had like 2 touchdowns each of the last 4 games. It's been a crazy streak that he's been on, for sure. So they're going to be high scoring. And then 49ers, CMC is going to be out there. I'm curious to see how Debo looks, because the reason why he got injured the last game, he was trash talking one of the opposing players that 2 games ago when he got hurt. I think it was against the Browns when he got hurt. It was like 3 games ago, and they were like pregame. They were talking trash to each other, and it was like a sideline scuffle. And then in the game, he went and like he lowered his shoulder, and he took a big hit against the DB, and like he hit him hard, and he was acting tough, right? Like to get the first down. It was like a yak play, so he caught the ball like in a down and out, and then he hit the safety. And he got the first down, and he was acting all tough, and then he took another pass or something like that, and then all of a sudden he was out of the game, and then it turns out that he had to fracture shoulder after that.
Yeah, and you knew what had happened from as soon as they said it was his shoulder.
Yeah, exactly, because he took that hit. So obviously, so he was playing good at that point, and obviously, like George Kittle was non-existent after that. It's just basically Brandon Ayuk, and that's where Purdy had that 3-game skid where he wasn't doing anything. It's just CMC was the only person doing anything. So, yeah. I mean, it'd be a good game for them to have Debo back. He could open it up for Ayuk. And then, of course, I don't think that the defense on the other side is going to do much against the Niners, when they get rolling.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They both got respectable defenses, but they have better offenses. And both of them, you've seen holes. So when you've got that many weapons, you're going to exploit those holes. And I just expect both teams to be doing more on offense than they are on defense.
Should be a fun game.
So who's your second hot matchup of the week?
Yeah, so my second hot matchup, I had to think about it because obviously we're running out of games. So I know that last week I called the Eagles Cowboys as my hot matchup. That was the only one that was right for my hot matchup, so that was a good one. Obviously, did not disappoint for America's game of the week. Great matchup. Cowboys gave us a run to the end, and I hate the Cowboys, so it's hard for me to admit that, but I'm an unbiased person, so I try not to be anyways. So they gave us the best game we had all year, and I will say that there. Jets beat us, but that was an ugly game. Like we beat ourselves that game. Like I would just go out and say that, but the Cowboys actually gave us the best game. But anyways, hot matchup here I have is Commanders versus the Seahawks. Reason being that doesn't sound like a big game, but obviously you mentioned Sam Howell earlier, and he's actually like a top 2 or 3 passer right now. I think he has 26 passing yards for the year, and that's a lot for a guy that no one expected to even be anywhere close to the top tier for passing this year. So obviously that's largely in part to due to Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, and he's passing it a lot to Logan Thomas, his tight end. Curtis Samuel's coming back from injury. Brian Robinson, they don't use him enough. I get annoyed because they started using him so heavily first 3 games, and then the usage has really dropped off recently.
Yeah.
But I could see that as a bounce back game because Seahawks are really strong against the pass, but they're more susceptible against the run. So I could see them dumping it off a lot, like a lot of screens, because they do run Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator, does run a lot of plays like that back in Kansas City. So that's more of his specialty, is feeding the running back. So I could see them going back to that. And then Seahawks just got destroyed this past week, of course. They got destroyed by,
Baltimore. Yeah, that was
ugly. Baltimore. Well, so that was a bad game for them. Yeah. So they need to get their stuff together. They need to get their offense rolling. They're a really good offense. They have a top, 10 passing game, top 10 running game. So they really need to get this rolling if they want to get that wild card. because right now that's the Niners division. They're just the Niners world. They're just living in it, so they have to prove that they belong.
Yeah, this is a big game for them. DK Metcalf's got to step it up. Lockett, he's been more consistent than DK, but both of them are great. And I think even though the last couple games for Kenneth Walker haven't been great, I still think he's going to get the goal line work and should be a solid start this week. They do have a lot to prove. And Geno Smith, he wants to remind everyone last year wasn't a fluke. So I think he's going to come out slinging the ball. And I think they're at the point where if they don't win this game, it's going to kind of set the trajectory for the rest of the season. And if they do, it'll set the trajectory in the right direction. So this is a must win for them, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And my second hot matchup of the week is, I think, going to be the most exciting game of the week, and that's the Lions versus the Chargers. Again, the Lions had a bye last week, so they're all nice and rested. The Lions and the Chargers defense is not very respectable. The Lions, maybe. Chargers, no. And every single person on both teams is healthy. There's not one starter on the injury report. So we're going to have both teams firing on all cylinders. And think about this. The Lions, as great as they've looked, they got Montgomery back too. So I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen between Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery, but they're both monsters. They're both in action. And then Keenan Allen made history last week with passing over 10,000 receiving yards, and Eckler had 2 touchdowns. Herbert, I believe, is okay. Again, there was no one on the injury report, so I assume he's ready to go. And Jared Goff, he's going to be ready to go. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, got Laporta. I mean, there's just too many options, even with Josh Palmer out. Herbert's going to be just fine with Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. So I'm not worried about the offense at all. I think there's going to be probably close to 50 or 55 points total. And I can't say who's going to win this game. I don't know. I assume that the Lions are favored. But that's a tough call.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's going to be an amazing game. I'm a big fan of, offense, obviously. Chargers, you're right, have been a top offense. That's all they really have. But their defense has stepped up. I saw that recently. But I don't think the lightning strikes the same place twice. The Lions were only shut down by the Ravens this year. There's no way you slow them down. And the Chargers have to score to keep up with the Lions. So, they have to find a way to replicate the success or keep the offense going. They lost another receiver in Joshua Palmer, so they're going to have to air it out more. So, Keenan Allen connection, Eckler finally got his points. So, feed the ball to him. We'll see who else gets it on that side. And the injury was to Herbert's non-throwing hand as well. So he had his non-throwing hand bandaged up. So it's not going to affect his other hand. But he really did take a beating by the Jets. On the other side, obviously, I've been bullish on the Lions all off season. So, they have a lot of weapons, like you were saying. You express it perfectly. They're going to just score points, and they're going to play solid defense, and they're going to play inspired football. And I definitely think they're going to come out on top because they're the better overall football team on all levels, not just offense, defense, special teams, as well as coaching. I just think they're the superior team. Chargers just, been beating ugly teams. They've got a few cupcake games. They beat the Jets this week, and then the week before that they played the Raiders. So they've got, and that they were 2-4 before that. Or 3-4 or something like that. So they've gotten some nice layup games to get their confidence back on track.
Yeah, they have looked great in recent weeks, and I assume, just strictly going by the record, Lions are 6-2, Chargers are 4-4. You're probably right. The Lions probably are favored in that game, and that makes sense. But with all that offense and all that back and forth, I expect a very high score, and it's going to be a really, really fun game to watch. I definitely think it's going to be the best game on the week as far as just being entertaining. So, and
Oh
I've got
yeah.
a ton of stock in the Lions. Dude, people are going to think we're Lions fans. We're not. We just we just like them for fantasy football.
For the record, people, I am an Eagles fan, a diehard Eagles
Yeah,
fan
I'm a
since I
Steelers
was
fan. So
7 years old. You can check my credentials. It says Philly's finest on my forearms,
there
boys
you
and
go.
girls.
I've got
So,
I got the Steelers cross on,
that's a Steelers cross.
Well,
That's
it's a Steelers star at the end of each cross on my arm. So
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's funny.
a little subtle.
I was taking that pre-show. I was like, people are gonna think that I'm a freaking Lions fan. I'm so bullish on this year. I was like, nah, man, I just get props where it's
I am
due.
too. I just like
Lions are
them.
a good freaking football team, man. They're this year's Cinderella team. They just really made a good ass team, man. I
Yeah,
gotta give them
they've
their
come
props.
so far in the last few years. It's fun to cheer for them, and they do have some awesome players. And you know what? I even like the colors. So maybe if the Steelers are doing much better than anyone expected. So they're not the prettiest games, but they're doing a lot better than anyone expected. So I'm obviously a Steelers fan through and through. But if they get knocked out of the playoffs and the Lions are still in it, I'm a Lions fan. Forget it.
Yeah, I just like cheering for the underdogs. That's just me because I'm from the
Absolutely.
city of underdogs. I can't cheer for any mainstream team. Like I can
No
never
way.
cheer for that.
Of course
My
not.
father-in-law is a Niners fan, and one of my best friends, Pena. Thank you for watching the show, by the way. He's the one with that's fighting the brain tumor. He is a hardcore Niners fan, and I love him. And he went to the game last year and everything, and I'll cheer for them for him. That is literally the only reason. Otherwise, I would be anti big stream, mainstream teams. But because of what McCaffrey did for him, that's why I told you I was like, I'm drafting McCaffrey, and
Yeah, I was just gonna
he
say, and
is, yeah,
McCaffrey.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that was my whole thing. And because I drafted my team like that, I am currently 8-1 in those leagues. So it everything happens for a reason. So, but anyways, definitely going to be a good game there. I'm excited for to watch. It's going to be my favorite game to watch as well. You feel that? That's today's cold call of the week. Joe, who's your cold call?
Well, my cold call, I may be wrong about this, but I think the Browns versus the Ravens is just going to be a mean, nasty defensive battle. I think it's going to be one of the meanest matchups we see all season. It did happen once already, and Baltimore beat the balls off of the Browns, but they've improved a little bit. And the Browns' defense statistically is the best in the league. Ravens have the most sacks. They've got 35 total sacks, but collectively, I think the Browns are just going to keep them in check at least a lot more than they did the first game. Deshaun Watson, he's still nursing a shoulder injury, so that's not going to be good for him when he's getting blitzed by the Ravens. And then, the pass defense and the run defense from the Browns it should give the Ravens a lot more problems than it did in week 4. So I think this is going to be just two teams out for blood. It's a divisional matchup. It's going to be some of the meanest football we've seen so far this year. And, let me see that. The first game, the Ravens beat them 28-3. That is not going to happen again. It's going to probably be low scoring like that, right around probably 30, 35 points. But it's not going I really doubt it's going to be that one-sided. I do think the Ravens will probably win by more than a touchdown, but I don't think it's going to be that one-sided. And the only player I would plug in with confidence is Lamar Jackson. I'd kind of stay away from everyone else just because the defenses are going to be really, really hitting hard and going after each other.
Yeah, and I actually think before you told me the score of the game, I was actually playing out that exact scenario in my head, thinking that it was going to be that kind of lopsided game, that it was going to be defense, but the Ravens were just going to beat the brakes off them. Look, they wouldn't be able to contain Lamar because even when they did play, like Cleveland has been playing great defense all year, and that's the one team they just couldn't stop was the Ravens, right? Because Lamar's so hard to contain, and that's before like Lamar's gotten on the same page with Odell Beckham. And Zay Flowers, Zay Flowers had some flashes early in the season, but now they're just on the same page, same thing with Mark Andrews. So I think that it'll still be a defensive game. Yeah, like they'll hold the Browns in check, even with the Deshaun Jackson, whatever there. But the Browns, you've been able to move the ball on them through the air. So I think that they're going to do a lot of quarterback draws and keep them honest, and then they're going to just cook them, and on the ground. But yeah, I could see that happening again.
And yeah, I mean, Mark Andrews is another one I would play with confidence. And there's a chance, that Gus Edwards, you just never know with the Ravens backfield who to trust and when to trust them. But Gus Edwards has been pretty consistent. But I don't like this matchup for him.
Oh, no, I don't like it either.
I would stay away from him if you do have other options, but there's a good chance you don't have better options. But yeah, the only two I'd play with confidence would probably be Lamar. I don't think Zay Flowers is someone I'd be confidently starting, but yeah, maybe he'll probably get you 10 or 15. But I think Lamar and Mark Andrews are definitely going to have good games. And I don't think anybody on the Browns is worth starting. I think the Ravens, I could be wrong, but I think they had 3 interceptions the first game, which is, they intercepted the ball, turned it right over to Lamar and, let him go to work. So
yeah, just ball control.
Yeah, they had control the entire time, and I expect this to be a slow game and having, the Ravens having control for the duration of the game.
Oh, yeah.
And who's your cold call this week, Manny?
Well, that's easy. It's going to be Falcons versus the Cardinals. So the reason why I picked that one, I know Kyler Murray's expected to come back this week. Obviously, if he's not going to be at 100%. So he's going to be playing. He's going to be playing different. He's going to be playing a little bit scared. James Conner may be back. He's not going to be at 100%. Falcons are starting Heineke, but he's going to be walking on eggshells. So Heineke, they haven't really let him, play his game right. When they let Heineke play his game in Washington, he was a little bit dangerous, right? When he was playing how he confidently. Right now, he's not playing confident. He's playing like reserved because he's afraid to make a mistake. He's afraid of getting benched. Whatever that dynamic is over there in Atlanta, it's the dynamic is when you have a coach that's on the hot seat. It's like walking on eggshells when you're a quarterback on the hot seat because a coach makes you feel like you're expendable, right? So you make a mistake. Because you had somebody like Desmond Ritter who was putting up 3 or 4 turnovers on like 2 or 3 games in a row, like he kept a job for 2 to 3 games like that. But Taylor Heineke put up 1 or 2 turnovers in the last game, and he had to get confirmation that he was a starter the next game too, right?
Right.
So instead of giving him that confirmation right after the game, it was something that was for some reason left up in the air. So I think that is going to have him play reserved against a solid Cardinals team. Like their defense shows up sometimes they don't. They're a really weird team like that. Maybe they play inspired with Kyler Murray, who knows? But it's just going to be an ugly game. It's in Arizona. Falcons are going to be, they like using Bijan Robinson as a diversion more than as a runner.
Yeah,
I think you saw that hot take, right? That Arthur Smith, he's gone after this year, by the way. He's not going to be a coach in Atlanta very long. I know the owner.
I can't make sense of what they're doing.
Like the owner saw that and he's like, "What the hell is this guy talking about? You drafted Bijan to be a diversion."
Yeah,
like Derrick Henry's just there to just run routes. Get the hell out of here, man. Like give Bijan the ball and let him run the ball 20 times a game.
It's like when a few weeks ago they were talking about Jahan Dotson taking snaps for like a a placeholder. I don't know what you call him, a placeholder for the kicks. The guys that kick field goals. He was doing that in practice, and I don't know if he was just goofing around or something, but that's not what they drafted Jahan Dotson for. You know, he must have just been goofing. I don't know. He must have just been like, "Hey, let me try this" or something. I don't know, but apparently he was holding kicks and he was holding for the kicker in practice. So that was a few weeks ago. He looked awesome the last 2 weeks, so I'm not worried about it anymore. But it's concerning to hear.
Not to get off topic, but you know who should be holding kicks is Taysom Hill. Like you can run some fakes off that, man.
Yeah, dude. Have him do everything. He can play any position if it's football. There's nothing that dude can't do.
Yeah, that gets some nice fakes, and you don't know if he's gonna take the snap or he's gonna run it around.
Shit, just let him kick. I bet he's a good kicker too.
Yeah, shoot. I mean, the kicker for the running back Ungumbale for Texans was kicking field goals, 30-yard extra points. So
dude, that'd be great if Taysom just started marching out kicking field goals too. That'd be hilarious. That'd just be fitting.
Yeah. But yeah, what you think about the Falcons-Cardinals matchup?
Oh man, I agree with you 100%. I mean, they're just two bad teams that all over the place offensively. And yeah, the Cardinals D does show up once in a while, but there's just too many question marks around their offense for the Falcons and for the Cardinals. I don't think James Conner is going to be 100%. He'll probably get 10 or 12 carries. And then Kyler Murray, if he does play, will probably be, just being very cautious. And yeah, it's hard to say, how that game is going to play out, but it's just going to be sloppy. It's going to be probably ugly to watch, a lot of punts and boring as hell and low scoring. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I'd rather do something on my honey-do list than watch that garbage.
Yeah, I'll do some dishes and maybe some laundry.
Well, like, what, honey, did you have something you wanted me to do for you?
Yeah, now would be a good time.
All right.
Well, you know what, Manny? A good way to warm up from a freezing cold call is a nice steaming pile of shit. And right now I have one in my pants from my call last week on Trey McBride being the best waiver pickup. And it was tough. He saw so much volume the week before that I thought even against a difficult matchup, they were completely shut out. The Cardinals were beat. I think the final score was 27-0. I can't remember, but Trey McBride had 5 targets, 3 receptions, and 5 fantasy points. It was a horrible, horrible showing. Again, it was a tough matchup, and I think better days are ahead. But I expected him to get double-digit fantasy points. I said he was the best pickup of the week, and I'm obsessed with tight ends. So I, put some time into making that call. I thought, Taysom or Trey McBride's going to be the best tight end pickup, and Taysom Hill certainly was, but Trey McBride, he was not.
It takes a big man to admit you like tight ends, so
it does, and to admit that I have shit in my pants right now. It takes a real big man to be 40 years old shit in your pants.
I hear that.
What about you? What's your shit call of the week?
Well, my shit call, I did say that the Seahawks versus the Ravens was going to be a high-scoring game, and it was for the Ravens. But obviously, the Seahawks really made me eat a shit pie there, mud pie, because they scored 3 measly points. They kicked the field goal all game. I mean, like, Gino and the company did not show up. They couldn't get anything going. They just kept turning the ball over. I mean, they could not keep Gino upright. They were just like under pressure all game. I know the Ravens I mentioned they were the number 1 sack team in the league, and and they just couldn't do anything with it. They couldn't get any ball moving. They couldn't get the first downs when they needed to, and the Ravens just completely embarrassed them the same way the Ravens embarrassed the Lions. So that's the second like formidable team. And I know Seahawks weren't really a top tier team to begin with. They were like more of the middle of the pack wild card team, and they were exposed for that because Ravens is definitely a top tier team.
Yeah.
But I did expect more of a fight from them, at least, put up a couple TDs, but, a few TDs, but they didn't. They definitely didn't do that. So that's my mud pie to eat there.
Mm-hmm. And I bet that tastes good. But the thing is, I expected, at least 14 points or something from the Seahawks. I did think the Ravens were going to win, but I thought they'd get, Kenneth Walker in there possibly, or,
Yeah.
DK or Lockett. I just expected someone to, and Geno's, he's had a couple slow weeks, but I expected him to play a lot better. That's why I think they're going to bounce back this week, though, because of that shit show last week.
Oh, yeah. I agree. All right, Chicos, bring out your balls. It's time for the big balls call of the week. And this week, my big balls call, I've been riding a big wave, man. I've been really hot lately. I've been, and I'm going to just keep riding that wave till it's gone. So last week, I made a prediction where I was saying that, hey, this backfield, before all these experts were saying it, you guys go back and check the tape. I was saying that this backfield is going to be really great. It's going to be sustainable. It's going to be the number one rush defense in the NFL. Detroit's going to keep running the ball. It's going to be sustainable for both running backs, right? So my big balls call is David Montgomery is going to have 100 rushing yards and a touchdown this weekend. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have 100 rushing yards and a touchdown this weekend. So double big balls, all right? So you want some balls? Because they got Frank Ragnow, the center's coming back this game. They got their left guard coming back this game. They just came off a bye week, so Detroit's O-line is finally healthy for the first time in all season. So they're about to bring everybody back freshly rested, and they're playing the Chargers, who are not like they're solid. Like, don't get me wrong, they have a good pass rush, but how do you stop a good pass rush? You run their ball down their throats and you double team their best pass rushers. So Detroit's going to run a lot of two tight end sets, a lot of big formations, and they're actually one of the few teams that has a fullback. So they're going to be running some big formations there. So that's why I think you remember that game where they gave Montgomery 32 touches? They already broke them twice this year. Montgomery's missed, 3 or 4 games? Why risk breaking them when Jahmyr Gibbs finally looks like the guy, right? Just give Jahmyr Gibbs 15 carries, give Montgomery his 20, and then get the same production from 2 guys.
I think it's going to be more like that kind of a split moving forward, maybe 60-40. They might even give Montgomery 25 and give Jahmyr Gibbs 15, but I do think it's going to be a little more even than it was, and they've both proven they can do the job very well. And even with Goff passing, they're obviously going to be mixing it up quite a bit on offense. So, man, that is a very bold prediction. You're talking about fucking huge balls. Yeah. And I would love to see it happen because I've got a lot of stock in both of those guys.
Bro,
we are Detroit Lions fans, folks, fantasy football wise.
Bro, I'm thinking 2020. So, like, Jahmyr Gibbs 15 carries and, like, 5 catches, or, like, something in 20 touches each,
some
touches
passing
per game
in there for sure. Yeah, total touches.
So, hell yeah. So I'm riding by that. I feel good about that too.
Well, I want to make the call that Zach Moss scores a touchdown against the Patriots this week. I feel like even though he got a lot of credit for everything he's done this year, I feel like he's just being kind of pushed to the side because of last week. And up until last week, it was pretty much 50-50 since Taylor came back. So I don't feel like that week tells you everything. It might be telling you what's expected for the rest of the season, but it was just one game. I don't think we can say definitively that, yeah, Jonathan Taylor's the guy now, and Moss is just going to be like kind of a change of pace back. I still think he's going to get double-digit carries, even though he only got 7 last week and Taylor got 18. They were pretty much dead even before that. And they both scored touchdowns in the last 3 weeks, and neither of them scored a touchdown last week. So maybe the inefficiency from Jonathan Taylor, because Zach Moss was the more efficient back, maybe they give him a little bit more volume and they bring it back to like a 50-50 split. And if that happens, there's a real good chance that Zach Moss finds the end zone. So while everyone's forgetting about Zach Moss, I'm going to predict that he scores a touchdown this week against the Patriots. It's not even that bold of a call. Not nearly as close to as ballsy as yours. But I just think that guy they need to continue giving him what he's earned at this point.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because I mean, why else would you keep a guy that's on his last year of his contract? You're kind of, I don't know what the Colts are doing. Are you making a playoff run? Are you trying to you're trying to make a run? Okay, so are you trying to protect your investment as well? Because Zach Moss has been the consistent, efficient runner all year. Why would you reduce his carries? If this guy in minimal carries has been more efficient, Jonathan Taylor has one rush that he hit a 60-yarder on last week, and now he's the more efficient guy. That's not how it works.
No, he's not.
Like Zach Moss consistently has jumped in and basically been the guy. And, you got to give him that respect, because at the end of the day, you're going to be the guy that's going to, you're going to be giving him the touches, right? So I think it's going to go back to that. So I can see that happening for sure.
And when you said protect your investment, I'm thinking that too, because they just signed a $42 million deal for 3 years. They want Jonathan Taylor active for those 3 years. Moss is on the last year of his contract. So why not, run him into the ground? I know, it sounds bad to say, but, get the most you can out of him before he goes somewhere else.
Oh, yeah. Agreed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for another episode here at Fantasy Football Sports Minds. We appreciate the support again. We have more content coming for you here every week, of course. We appreciate the support here. Joe, did you have anything else for these guys over here?
Just keep spreading the word. Like we said, we were happy to see that we had 50 downloads on the podcast side of it. So if you don't want to watch the videos or it's too hard, listen to us on your way to work. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we're on there. And YouTube, of course, check us out for the player profiles. But Apple Podcasts and Spotify for the full episodes. And of course, they're on YouTube as well. So just keep spreading the word. Let everybody know that we are making these calls.
Yes, sir. And we appreciate you all. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you here same time, same place next week. So you all have a great week. And again, if you have any questions, put them on the player profiles, put them on the videos. We'll make sure to answer them as soon as possible and help you out with your matchups, guys. But again, we love you guys. Thank you so much for the support. And you guys take care, all right? Have a good rest of your week, guys. Take care, all right?